Hello, I'm David Otey, and you're watching number 7 in a series of 9 videos around the theme of 9 clues for avoiding the 9 most common mistakes I see people make in technical presentations. The 9 letters in the phrase 9 clues are our roadmap, and now we have arrived at the letter U, which stands for unclear language. There are 3 types of language errors that I see made most commonly that contribute to lack of clarity. The first type of language error that I often see is what I call an audience mismatch. This is where a speaker is using terminology that may be very familiar to the speaker and even familiar to certain audiences, but the speaker is using that terminology in front of an audience where the terminology may not be as familiar. For example, I once saw a pharmaceutical researcher give a talk in which she used the word paracetamol. Now, this was a sophisticated audience. They probably understood, most of them, what she was saying, but she was speaking to an American audience. And in America, the over-the-counter drug that Europeans refer to as paracetamol is better known as acetaminophen. So if a speaker wants to meet the requirement of putting the audience's needs first, including the need for clarity, that speaker should be careful to select terms that are familiar to the particular audience. The second language error that I see is lack of specificity. Now, this can come about because the speaker chooses to use words that are inherently vague. Words like things and stuff. So don't tell me about the things you tried and the stuff that you used to carry out your experiments. Tell me about your trials and your apparatus. Another reason for lack of specificity comes in when a speaker is trying to be too lofty in their use of language. Instead, try to come down from the abstract to the concrete to the very specific. For example, vehicle is an abstraction. Truck is more concrete. Black Ford F-150 pickup is specific. A story that I often tell in one of my storytelling workshops involves a 98-year-old woman named Gertrude, whose son would pick her up every Sunday morning in his black F-150 pickup and bring her to our church. Now, I can tell that story in the morning, and hours later during my workshop, when we're doing something completely unrelated, I will ask my workshop participants, who remembers what Gertrude's son drove? And inevitably, a hand will go up, and someone will answer, a black F-150 pickup. Why? Because when you heard those words, an image formed in your mind. And that image turns out to be more memorable than the words that put it there. Using specific language, especially language that helps bring images to people's mind, is a terrific way to connect with your audience and make your ideas more memorable. Now, the third type of language error that I see people commit is improper use of jargon. Jargon can be described as language that is appropriate in a certain context, but may not be well understood outside that context. And this is a problem that often plagues technical presenters, because many technical professionals are so embedded in their jargon that they don't even realize when they're using it. So how do you overcome this error? You need an outside perspective. While you're preparing your talk, find a test subject to be a test audience for your talk. This should be someone whose educational level is similar to that of the audience you're preparing to speak to, but someone who is not already intimately familiar with your work. So ideally, not someone from your lab. Give your talk to this test subject and ask them to make note of anything that was unclear to them. Then go back and explain those points using plain language. That's how you can work to overcome that error. So to recap, There are 3 types of errors that contribute to lack of clarity in language: audience mismatch, lack of specificity, and inappropriate use of jargon. Take these steps to avoid those errors so that you can serve your audience's need to hear a clear message. To see more of the videos in this series, subscribe to my YouTube channel. And to learn more about me, go to my website, davidotey.com.